Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Alice. And here's her story. Dear Ollie, when I first started watching your videos, I was looking for knowledge and support to help me deal with my ex-husband who is an overt narcissist. I actually recently came to the realization that my ex isn't the only narc in my life. I'm 37 years old and it took up until this last year for me to realize that my mother may also be a narcissist. She would definitely be of the covert type since she poses as a codependent and has a victim complex and has everyone convinced she has high moral and ethical standards. She's not religious though. She would say spiritual, not religious. When I was in high school, she got into New Age and was reading Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love, and Dr. Wayne Dyer books. She read a lot of self-help books. All those baby boomers did. They all just got caught up in the latest fucking. Ugh, they're just the worst. They're the worst generation. They're the worst people to have ever raised children. She reads a lot of self-help books, spent a lot of time in counseling, and used to teach me about healthy boundaries and other cliche psychological knowledge. I realized later she doesn't have any respect for boundaries, and the knowledge she learned from these self-help books, such as "You can make anyone feel anything," she would use against me. But for a long time, the thought of my mom being anything other than a benevolent soul was just unimaginable. I went no contact a few months ago when she showed up at my house. Now I need to let her know there is no chance for reconciliation and she should just leave me alone. My sister says my mom will keep trying. I wrote 2 letters to my mom. One I wrote over a year ago and one I wrote tonight. The one I wrote over a year ago I never gave her because I still want to leave the door open, hoping for reconciliation would one day be possible. I also felt it would be very hurtful to her. I made my first effort towards reconciliation for New Year's 2017. I invited mom over for a New Year's Eve celebration. She flat out said no, as every attempt I have made to reach out to her has been pushed away, at least since I moved out of her house at the beginning of 2015. I was thinking of sending her the first letter, but now I am not so sure. I feel like I've outgrown that letter, and now, not sure how to describe it, but it sounds like something I shouldn't send. The one I wrote tonight seems too mean. Could you please read both, and I would appreciate your opinion on them. I think you will notice the very obvious change in me from one to the next. I attached the files. The earlier one is named Mom, and the one I wrote tonight is named Dear Anne. Thank you, Alice. You went no contact for a reason, and now she's slapping your hand back. I don't know what you're trying to reconcile, but let's start off with Dear Mom, which is 5 pages, and this is the one you wrote months ago. Okay. Actually, it looks like you wrote it in, oh no, you wrote it last year. You wrote this last April. Okay, April 2016. Dear Mom, things have not been good between us for a long time. Even before I converted to Islam and was living with you, things weren't good. At that time, you felt betrayed. You felt I betrayed you because I promised to keep my room and the kids' room maintained and that I would contribute to the housework, which I failed to do. I felt the weight of that broken promise every day I was there. I kept trying to live up to what I said I would do, but I truthfully couldn't. When I asked you if I could come back with the kids to live with you because of serious marital problems, I felt I could live up to that condition. I truly believed anything would be easier than living with the abuse I was enduring from Todd. I was wrong. I couldn't live up to it no matter how hard I tried. I felt extremely guilty for betraying your trust and appearing to trick you into letting me come back. I also felt resentful that you used the abuse I was suffering and need to come back as an opportunity to exploit with such a condition. What would have happened if I had said no? If I had said, Mom, in all honesty, I really don't think I'll be able to live up to that expectation. I have never successfully kept a household maintained regularly, and I don't think it's realistic that I would be able to now. Would you have me come back still, or would I have ended up in a women's shelter? I don't know, and it doesn't matter. But in retrospect, it seems unfair that you made that condition while I was in such a state, depressed, needing to leave an abusive marriage. My feelings of guilt were my feelings of guilt were much greater than my feelings of resentment, though I did my best to try to find a way to move out so you wouldn't have to suffer because of me anymore. Regardless of the fact that I made that promise under duress, I still made the promise and felt I should have lived up to it. I tried so hard to think of a plan that would set me up for financial stability on my own where I could support myself and the kids. Nothing ever did work out. I felt horrible that I seemed to be forcibly imposing my awful, intolerable lifestyle on you by just living in the same house. You would certainly remind me regularly about this with comments about how the house was an embarrassment, how we couldn't have company over, and we lived in a pigsty. And because of my inability to live up to your expectations, making some mistakes, especially with your computer, and my attempt at times to have my life be separate from yours and maintain some privacy, you started calling me selfish, a liar, and incompetent. Sure, you avoided using these words exactly, but you said plenty to get this message clearly across consistently. I remember one night we were sitting in the living room and you were telling me how I had no idea how to handle money, how to survive in the real world, and to keep a household, that I wouldn't be able to do it unless I master those skills in your home first. You made it sound like I never had to pay rent, had no idea how much things cost or how hard it is to make enough money to afford the things we needed. I knew plenty about that. One financial mistake I made while I was living with you was that I wasn't willing to do what I really should have, and that was strip the kids of all activities because I was too poor to afford them. If I was planning on moving out, then I should have been saving the extra money rather than spending it on the kids constantly. But I felt that they were entitled to activities and all the gifts and extra things I would spend for their birthdays and holidays. Even doing that wouldn't have been enough because I couldn't find a job that would make enough money to afford all the expenses plus childcare. I figured it out at that time and needed to be making 80,000. This is why I was discouraged. Maybe that's why I spent all my extra money on the kids, because I didn't see the point in saving while the hope for making enough weekly to support bills and rent was so far out of sight, and I didn't want the kids to go without. You also made it sound like the end of the world not being able to consistently maintain a home. Auntie Donna wasn't able to consistently maintain a home either. I remember you used to warn me that I wouldn't want to grow up and be like Auntie Donna. Well, why not? Auntie Donna always used to say that there were more important things in life than an immaculate house. There were so many other things about her that could have been appreciated and admired. She was a great mother. She tried her best as a wife. She was a community leader in Girl Scouts, and she helped women in the Leche League. She was very smart. Was her life unsuccessful because she had domestic challenges? I think no. I think in spite of her challenges, her life is one I admire and respect. I never heard anything positive from you about Auntie Donna. I only heard about how I need to be careful and not end up like her. You used her as an example of how not to be and ignored all her good qualities. My father used to do that to his brother, to me. He used to compare me to his brother Kenny like that all the time. While I was with you, I tried so hard to live up to your expectations. I know I failed. I know I was a disappointment, and my continued failure with certain mistakes I made. On top of that, lying about not going on Facebook on your computer and trying to maintain some privacy, which made it look like I was lying to you more by omission, made things worse. It's like you're a child. It's like you went back and you're immediately like you're a teenager. I know you will never forgive me for lying to you about using your computer for This is absurd. This is absurd. She's holding a grudge because you used her computer to log on to Facebook. Even for things I did before, I know you will not forgive me for a lot of things, even things I did before I got divorced. I say this because you continue to remind me of every mistake I've made, intentional or unintentional, that you remember, even if it happened more than 10 years ago. I also say this because I know you haven't forgiven Dad for any of the mistakes or things that he did that were upsetting you. I have heard you bring up Dad's mistakes even in recent years, speaking negatively about him and only talking about him in a critical way, never acknowledging anything good about him at all. If you can't forgive Dad, who has always spoken highly about you and demanded that my sister and I respect you, especially when we were growing up, or at least forget about our mistakes he made 20 plus years ago, I know there is no hope for you forgetting about or forgiving my mistakes, especially since I have seen you talk about me and treat me the same way you talk about and treat Dad. I know you have said you thought we had a lot in common, but it turns out I'm more like Dad than I am like you. I know you meant this as an insult since you never say anything good about Dad ever. I do have a lot in common with Dad, but I still have things in common with you. I do believe we are both emotional and our feelings can get hurt easily. We are both sensitive in that way. We're both creative, though in different ways. We both want to do the right things and live a good life. You're scared of this woman. I don't know how in like the preamble to this you thought her as some kind of nice codependent. This woman is an evil monster and you're obviously terrified of her. Making you live under her iron thumb probably since childhood, from what you're saying about your father telling you and your sister to respect her. Why are you're lying to yourself about who this woman is. We're both creative, though, in different ways. We both want to do the right things and live a good life. I think we all have that in common, but obviously it's not enough to keep us close. We also have different ideas of what doing the right thing and living the good life means. I have other attributes that are very different from you, some of which are the same as Dad's. We clash in these areas, and they seem to take focus completely off any other commonly shared traits. Things weren't so bad. Things weren't so bad between us before I moved in, and even in the beginning after I moved in. Things got really bad and icy the last few years I was living with you, mostly because of my failures, betrayal, and mistake. By betrayal, you're talking about going on Facebook. That is insane. The one lie I know is clearly wrong was the one about using your Facebook computer. Enough, like you keep bringing this up. I apologize for that, though you like to remind me about it and told me this is insanity. This is insane. You shouldn't send this letter only because it's not aggressive enough. I don't know why you're so afraid of this woman, but you clearly are. You clearly are. You're not going to get her to love you. You're not going to get her to come back and reconcile whatever you were trying to pull off. But you are completely deluding yourself in this letter. Completely deluding yourself. You thought this was too harsh? This is too harsh? Then you are dealing with a monster. You're obviously dealing with a borderline, because this is all reeks of borderline personality disorder. This is a monster. You know it, and you're just trying to. You told me you would never be able to look at me the same way again. Like, are you serious? I mean, I can't even take that statement seriously. How do you take this serious? I can't take a woman like that seriously. But you are. No wonder why you can't get you can't get your life in order, or you weren't able to. You've been completely infantilized, like you're a freaking child, your entire life. And I'm sure it was the same way with your ex-husband. And I hate to say it, that's probably why you ended up converting to Islam. Because that's what Islam does, tells you what to do, how to do it, or else. You told me that directly, knowing you will always and forever be suspicious of me, and I can never again regain your trust makes me feel hopeless. Alice, this is insane. This is insane. Over Facebook? Everything I talked about so far has been about the time before I converted to Islam. After converting to Islam, meeting my husband afterwards, getting married and transitioning the kids and myself to starting life as a family with him and his son Adam, things between us haven't gotten better. Around the time I was moving out, I asked if you would ever help my ex try to get custody of the kids. You said yes, if you felt it was in the best interest of the kids. This suggested to me that you thought of them living with me may not be in their best interest. This hurt a lot and scared the crap out of me. Despite this, I tried to reach out to you and maintain a relationship while I was in the first apartment I moved into after I left. I felt you pushed me away with dirty looks anytime I would show up to visit. Short, biting responses and digs towards me. I had to distance myself from you since our negative interactions was taking a toll on me emotionally, and since I became pregnant, I knew it wouldn't be good for the baby. Still, I tried to keep in touch and reach out to you from a distance, but it seemed my attempts were always met with hostility and resistance. You also seem to be friendlier with my ex than with me, which made me wonder if you were going to testify on his behalf since he was taking me to court, and you had told me you would help him get the kids if you thought it was best. Hearing you say that killed me inside. It suggested you thought me retaining custody may not be in Lucas and Steven's best interest. You saw the abuse and all the terrible things my ex put me through and would still consider him to possibly be a better parent than me. That hurt me so much. I also observed that you were more than civil with him and his family, socializing, using small talk, and smiling at them at kids' events. You even went over to his house to visit the kids, even though I was reaching out so the kids and I could spend time with you on my weekends with them. You couldn't even be civil towards me. Instead of a smile, I would normally get facial expressions directed at me that clearly shows you were unhappy, annoyed, or displeased with me somehow. Once I got the witness list from Todd's lawyer and saw you weren't being called to testify, I called you. We talked for at least 2 hours, and I thought we had a breakthrough in that conversation. For about a month or two until the trial, we were talking more, and I was starting to feel like we had a mother-daughter relationship again. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, you stopped talking to me again since the trial results came back. Conversations became almost non-existent again. I called you to keep in touch and talk, and you went back to 5-minute conversations where I asked how you are, try to share a little with you. You say nothing, and it's time to hang up because there's nothing left to say. You just called me You called me just to talk to the kids. You didn't even bother asking how I am, and you showed no interest in talking to me. I told you that I wasn't I told you that was hurtful to me and you apologized, but never acted on it at all. You continued you continued calling just to talk to the kids. You were treating me like nothing but a conduit to the kids for you. Basically, you were shunning me. I'm sick of practically having to beg for a connection with you. I'm sick of trying. You better be careful here, Alice, that you're not in a competition with your mother's affection with your kids, because that seems like what your mother's trying to do, trying to play you off your kids. Look, Alice, there comes a time where emotionally you got to put on your big girl pants. Okay, because a lot of this comes off as very childlike and very entitled. I have to be honest with you. Not that your mother didn't set you up for all this through her borderline, but that's what it's coming off not very well, especially in relation where it seems like you're taking the bait against your children. I'm sick of trying to have a conversation with you and getting back silence, digs, or insults. Our last conversation back in June or July was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. You called to talk to the kids. Again, you didn't bother trying to talk to me, but stayed on the phone as I initiated a conversation about the harassment prevention order I asked district court for against my ex. You didn't respond to this. When I talked about my cousin's graduation party and you told me not to go posting it on Facebook that you got the invitation, I feel I had the right to be insulted. That comment was suggesting I go around posting other people's business on Facebook, and I don't. I really wouldn't know how to use Facebook, though, since you refused to connect with me on Facebook. You really wouldn't know how I use Facebook, though, since you refused to connect with me on Facebook. Maybe you were thinking of what you would do since you put up some post a couple of years ago referencing me in a very negative way because you thought I lied to you about deactivating my Facebook page when you accepted my friend request. It worked. Anyway, you claimed telling me not to go posting that you got the invitation to my cousin's graduation party on Facebook was your attempt to have a conversation with me. And since I jumped down your throat about it, we could go back to our one-sided conversation. Then you asked me to continue with what I was sharing with you before. Sorry, Mom, that kind of comment was just hurtful and mean. There is no point to trying to have a relationship with you because I was the only one trying. Your behavior toward me showed no interest in trying to have a relationship, and it's too taxing on me emotionally to keep trying by myself. It took so much out of me and was robbing me of being the best person I can be for my family, and to continue taking the emotional punches you send me. I'm going to be selfish and take care of myself and not expose myself to this anymore. Every time you call to talk to the kids and ignore me, it hurt. Every time I tried to have a conversation with you and you gave me dead answers and digs, it hurt. Every time I tried to tell you how I felt and you dismissed me or invalidated me, it hurts. I can't do it anymore. That's why she's doing it. You're still the little girl trying to get her mommy to love her. This isn't real no contact. You're just trying to fix your mother by breaking contact for a little. This isn't real. This woman will never like you. She will never love you. She will never be the mother you want her to be. Never, ever, ever, ever. And she damaged you deeply, deeply, deeply. And if you think I'm wrong, answer this question yourself. When was the last time I thought of anything positive about Alice? When was the last time I was proud of her or looked at her in a positive way? Do I think anything good about Alice at all? If you do, then keep it to yourself. Then you keep it to yourself very well. My guess is that you see me as a major disappointment, a failure, and an embarrassment. You may also consider me as the lesser of two evil options my kids have to live with and raise them, since I doubt you think I'm a good enough mother. And yet you didn't try to help my ex take custody of them. Mom, I never wanted it to come to this. You're my mother. I love you. You carried me for 9 months. And here it is again. Here it is. Here it is. You going back groveling to her. You thought this was too harsh? This first one, I'm like, I'm going to hate to read what the second one is like. Mom, I never wanted it to come to this. You're my mother. You carried me for 9 months, went through an extremely long, painful. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? And you were an amazing mom when I was in elementary school. No, she wasn't. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. No, she wasn't. This doesn't just fall out of thin air. You made a lot of sacrifices and did your best to raise me. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. When I was small, you used to listen to me, validate my feelings, and tried making me feel good about myself. You also let me come back home when I left my ex, and that was also a major sacrifice for you. I'm so grateful for all that, and I've tried my best to show it, though I'm sure you couldn't see it. Somewhere along the way, though, through the years, you stopped listening to me, stopped validating me, stopped criticizing me, and cutting me down. I'm pretty sure it started sometime after you and Dad separated, and the criticism slowly kept increasing and positive interactions slowly decreased. What happened is your borderline mother, okay, your covert, and believe it or not, a covert borderline. Once your father couldn't take it anymore, her true colors came out. Now, if we talk, all I hear is your criticism and accusations against me. There's nothing positive left. I feel like I lost my mom. I have a hole in my heart because I don't have you in my life, and I haven't for a long time, at least not in a positive way. Since the only way I can have you in my life is in a negative way, where I end up feeling bad about myself, beating myself up, and futilely trying to make things better, I choose to walk away. I didn't come to this decision lightly. Never thought it would come to this. I'm sorry it has to be this way. Sincerely, Alice. This letter doesn't, this is a sugar-coated bullshit letter, and you know it. You thought this was too hard? This is bullshit. You're a grown-ass adult groveling for going on Facebook. That is absurd. What put you in that mental, what put you as a grown woman groveling like this? Over Facebook, over using her computer to go on, and she'll never trust you again? Over going on to Facebook? You need to get back deep into how you ended up like this, how you ended up with your husband who gets you to convert to Islam, which I'm sorry is for you. This is contributing to your problem. People like you is exactly who Islam targets. I'm sorry I have to say that to you, but that is the fact. It makes you subservient, tells you what to do, and I mean that's basically what I'm reading here. This letter doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. All right. Number 2. And this is the one she wrote last night. And this one's 2 pages long. Dear Anne, I like that better. Use her by her name. It seems to me all you want to do is play games. You have the gall to show up at my house unannounced with banana bread under the guise of being in the area to go shopping. Later, calling that your attempt to reach out to me and others while you're still in contact with my ex and you were planning on bringing my children to my cousin's wedding without my knowledge. You knew about the wedding as you sat in my kitchen and said nothing about it. This is why you don't let them back in, Anne. Not Alice. This is why they don't change. My family wasn't invited to this wedding, and it was completely inappropriate for you to ask my cousin if you could bring my kids and then try to arrange it with my ex after he told you it was his weekend. Turns out he lied, and it was my weekend, which I made sure they didn't go to that wedding because that was just wrong. It was completely disrespectful, sneaky, and calculated thing to do. Even if it was on my ex's weekend, it's still Wrong. You told me through my sister that I can get support from your end. I asked how and never got a response. That proves it's all talk and you have no real intention of supporting me in any way. You also proved in your conversation with her that you don't want a relationship with me when you admitted all I wanted was to be there when the kids go visit. You said you would hardly call that a visit when you hardly see my kids. How is that hardly a visit just because I'm there? These aren't no contact letters. These are ongoing arguments disguised as no contact letters you're having with your mother. How is that hardly just a visit because I'm there? If you hardly see my kids, that means you're also hardly seeing me. You claim to love me so much. You are putting your children as competition with your love for your mother. You're not going to get it, Alice. You're not going to get it. And this being the only thing I needed for the kids to visit you, that I come, was too much for you in your mind, justified you seeing the kids through my ex, and you know is an abusive, manipulative asshole. You got to stop using your kids between you and your mother. They're not pawns. They're not pawns. And you're both guilty of it. You're both guilty of it. Your kid should have nothing to do with her, and you should have nothing to do with her. You're not going to win this argument with her, Alice. She's going to continue dragging you down this road. And you showed no interest in seeing my baby or my husband either. Since the baby was born, we don't even have a picture of you with the baby, as you refused to have your picture taken with him when you came to visit when I was in the hospital. I'm really not even sure why you came to visit me in the hospital, since I can't remember the last time you showed any interest in him, other than a couple weeks ago when you showed up with the banana bread unannounced. I'm sick of your put-downs, lies, self-righteous, judgmental attitude, contradictions, and victim complex. It took getting some distance from you in a healthy environment for me to really see the truth. I figured it all out, though. You once told me I treat you just like I treat my ex. That's because you are just like my ex, only covertly, way further under the radar. That's what I told you at the beginning. It's obvious to me you would rather play games with my ex, who is manipulating and using the hell out of you. But then you're probably doing that to him too. I guess it works out then. Have fun. I'm not playing. I'm done. Alice. That's a better letter. That's a better letter. But the mistake you're making, Alice, is you're arguing points. When the no contact letter needs to be just broad. You're a horrible fucking mother. You're a manipulative fucking bitch. How dare you make me grovel to you as a grown adult using Facebook? Coming out of an abusive relationship. You're trying to argue points here, and your kids are getting caught up in the mix as pawns. It ain't about your kids. It's about you and your feelings. And the realization, finally, that this bitch has always been like this. That she was never a victim. She was never nice. She was always covert, behind the scenes, looking to destroy you. No matter what you do, say, have done, buy, doesn't matter. She will continue doing this to you. She has been victimizing you your entire life, set you up to be victimized in your first marriage. You're worried that the first letter she would never talk to you again? I mean, that letter was groveling. This letter is a lot better, but it's still your arguing points and you're letting your kids get caught up in the mix. This isn't a competition. She's using your kids and you're kind of letting them be used. And that's got to stop now. That's got to stop now. Above all else, you can't let your kids be used as pawns in the no contact game with the narcissist. You're not going to convince your mother of anything at this point. The only person you gotta convince is yourself that the only thing to do is to cut contact and forget it. That's it. It's done. It's over. There's no fixing this. There's no reconciling. There's no banana bread or anything, because this shit is going to continue. She's going to keep it up with the ex. She's never going to stop. Just like my parents are never going to stop with my ex-wife. It's too easy. You have to make it clear. Bitch, you're scum. I know you're scum. And you're not even, she's not even worth the 7 pages in total you've written to her. It's not even worth it. She's not worth any of this. She knows what the truth is. She knows all of this. Why are you wasting your time writing fucking 5 pages and 7 pages thinking, oh, I overdid it? You're a horrible sack of shit and you know it. The end. The end. That's why. You're a sack of shit and you know it. The end. Done. That's real easy. That's real easy. You get caught up in the muck going point by point, trying to go back. Bullshit. She's only just going to run to your ex and fuck with you anyway. Cut it off. Cut it off. Get some grasp and stop letting your kids be used as pawns. So, thank you very much, Alice, for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, or you'd like to set up a Skype chat, phone call, Facebook chat, have a private video made, or you'd like to sponsor a video for someone who can't afford one, or just sponsor the channel in general, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. And if you still don't know, wait for the instructional video link to pop up at the end of this video to walk you through all of that. Please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care. Bye.